Welcome to AJ's Kitchen. 我是 Angela.
我是 Jason.
我们是业余厨子。
专业小 BB. Today we will have our guest cook Dave showing his recipe for 18th century plum pudding.
Hi there, I'm Dave, and happy holidays to all you home cooks out there. Thank you for tuning in for today's lesson. As it is now Christmas, I've decided to bake a traditional English plum pudding using a recipe that I found from the 18th century. So actually, the real reason that I came up with this plum pudding for dessert, well, it's a bit of a story. I was settling down with my coffee and Baileys this morning when I received an urgent text message from my son. He said, "Father, we haven't had a plum pudding in the longest time. Please make the plum pudding." So I searched the recipe and found what sort of ingredients we needed, and I needed to get suet. So this is the suet. I've cut it up into fine little pieces so it fits nicely into the pudding. Currants, I have a cup of currants there. 3 country farm fresh eggs. And then we need raisins. I have the same quantity as the currants, a cup of raisins. And then flour. It's all-purpose flour. I've got a cup and a half there. I don't know if I'll need it all, but I've got that to be on the safe side. Then I have a cup of a small amount of ginger, some orange peels that I freshly peeled and cut into slices. And we're going to be adding that to give some color to this lovely cake. And then I have the ground nutmeg, a small amount of that to give it this lovely flavor just right for Christmas. Got about a cup and a half of milk just to have it there on the safe side to make sure we've got enough. I probably won't be using it all, but want to be safe on that. Then, of course, one of the other most important ingredients is brandy. You've got to have your brandy. I picked the VSOP. I think it's good quality. I'd better just sample it to make sure. Yes, that's delightful. That will do just perfectly. And then just a couple of other small little things that we need. We need cooking string. I'll be using that to tie up the cloth bag that we will be putting the plum pudding in while it boils. And this is the cooking cloth. Not too fine because if it was too fine it just wouldn't do the job, and if it was Okay, let's get cooking. And we'll start by cracking those country farm fresh eggs. Here we go, the first one. Click. And put that in the pot there. Pass off to my assistant. Very handy to have an assistant when you're a master chef. That's the second one. I've got my third egg that I'm now going to be cracking and putting in here. And then the thing we got to do is we got to whip it up. So that's the eggs. Let me get my whipper and start whipping away. Here we go. Whippity-doo-dah, whippity-day. Now that's coming along just fine, and we'll have to start adding our ingredients here very soon. So let me see. The first thing that I'm going to be adding is the all-purpose flour. I'm going to add it slowly. I don't want to add it too quickly and get the whole thing lumped up and bumped up. So just add a little bit. Whisk it up a little bit. I'll show you how this is looking like. See, it's all mixing in like that, and we've got a good consistency. So in that case, what we'll do, we'll add a bit more of the flour. We just slowly add the flour. Make sure the consistency is good. It doesn't get too thick or lumpy. And yes, this is looking pretty decent actually. I've finished whipping that up, but it's getting a little on the thick side, so let me slowly start to add some milk. I'll add about half of my jug of milk here. There we go. You can see how that's got very liquefied, and it looks like we could be ready to add a bit more of the flour. So let me scoop in another good amount of the flour. There's still a little flour left in the bowl, but it's coming along quite nicely. So let me keep mixing this up until we get it all whisked in and have a good consistency again, because that is vital. Now, of course, we've got to add some brandy, the VSOP. There we go, put a good glug of that in there so we have some nice flavor, and we'll whip this up and blend it all along. And it looks good, and I'd say it's starting to smell pretty good. That's the brandy fumes I'm getting. Now let's add the currants. There we go. Flick the last little ones in there. Flick, flick. And whisk it all up again. They've moved in quite nicely. Now the raisins we're adding. That's the cup of raisins. They're well put in, mixing them up quite nicely again. Now we're going to be adding spices to flavor this up. We've got the ground nutmeg, about a teaspoon of that, maybe a little less. There's some orange peels. I've just peeled some oranges and cut them up into slices to give a nice bit of bright yellow color. And ground ginger, about a teaspoonful of the ground ginger. Just sprinkle that in, and then we've got to start mixing it all up again. There you can see how it's all coming along, and the beautiful colors that are going to be showing up in this lovely dessert. And of course we have to add one of the main ingredients here, suet. So I'm just pouring that in right now.
So what is actually suet?
Oh, suet is the raw hard fat of beef or mutton found around the loins and kidneys area.
Interesting.
Yeah, I hope
So
that
it's
answered your question.
So it comes in the solid form?
It comes in a solid form, and then I just chopped it up into smaller pieces so it'd mix in nicely and blend all in with this thing that we're making. And I'm still mixing away. It's a big job to mix away. And we're gonna, when this is done, which it is now, we'll put it into a cloth and boil this. It has to boil for about 2.5 hours, so it's a fairly lengthy process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cloth in some boiling water just to get it to a good temperature. We now take the cloth and dip it in the boiling water just to warm it up a bit, so that when I'm putting the pudding mixture into the cloth, it's not going to be sticking all over it. So it was rather hot, but position it on the plate. There we go, got a kind of good shape there. And I can now start to scoop this mixture into the center of the cloth. Scooping it out the bowl there, get every little bit out because it's so delicious. I wouldn't like to leave any behind. Okay, that's it. I think we've got that all out of there. Now I've just got to tie this up into a ball. So pick up the 4 corners, pick them up, and hold it like that. Give it a little squeeze. Try to make a kind of ballish shape here. And now with my string that I'd cut into about a 2-foot section, I'm going to tie this knot around this, tie it up. Lucky I went to the Boy Scouts, so I know how to tie a knot. And we'll just put this together. And then once it's tied, I'm going to put it back into the boiling water, and it'll have to stay there for about 2.5 hours to cook. And once it's done, it's 2.5 hours. It will then be ready to take out, and we then empty it out of the cloth onto the plate, and we just let it sit there to cool.
2 hours later.
Well, 2.5 hours have passed by. Gave me sufficient time to have a little rest, have a little drink, and now we'll take it out of the pot. Let it drip a little bit. It's quite wet. Drip, drip, drip. And I think we got most of the water off. So put it onto a plate, and we'll now cut the string. Snip, snip, snip. Cut the string. And then we will undo the cloth and take a look inside, see how this has turned out. So here we go. This is the big moment, and wow, that is what a traditional 18th century plum pudding looks like. So what we should do now is carefully flip it over and check the other side and see if it is ready for eating on Christmas Day, which is going to be tomorrow. So let's take a quick look at that. Here we go. Flip it over and wow, is that ever perfect? So that will be lovely. So we'll just let it sit there until tomorrow.
Day 2.
Well, here we are. We're now actually at my daughter's house. As you can probably see, the kitchen has changed around a little, and I've actually changed shirts for Christmas Day. But let's get this show on the road. Pour some warmed brandy on top, which is the traditional thing to do, and which I love to do, and we'll then fire it up. So get the match, and we'll light the brandy up on top of the lovely plum pudding. But it's not quite going as planned. But never mind, that will be just fine. We will pour the brandy, which didn't get lit up. We'll pour it over it at a later, well, not much later, a few seconds actually. Let me just scoop this out of the pot, pop it onto the plate. There it is. And as you can see, here's the brandy that didn't flame up. Just pour it over there, and that will make a lovely succulent pudding. And just look at that. One slice has been taken out and devoured rapidly by one of the guests. And, well, that's it. We're done. So once again, Merry Christmas, and thank you for tuning into today's lesson.
Thanks for watching this video. If you like us, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on new videos.
可以同时在微博、B 站、YouTube 搜索 AJ's Kitchen 戴红色厨师帽的小猫咪找到我们。
Your support's our best motivation for creating new videos.
See you next video!